Welcome to the latest episode of FoodTech Stories. I'm your host, FoodTech marketing expert Megan Thomas. FoodTech Stories features the leaders pioneering new approaches to technology, collaboration, and storytelling in the food tech and ag tech space. Food and agricultural changing, and fresh ideas and leadership are needed to sustainably feed the growing global population. Join us every other week as we talk to a founder, operator, or visionary in food and agriculture. On this episode of FoodTech Stories, my guest is Kimberly Shenk, co-founder and CEO of Novi Connect. Welcome to the podcast, Kimberly.
Thanks for having me, Megan. Excited to be here.
Great. Well, let's jump right in. What inspired you to launch a startup around product claims verification?
I've always been really driven by purpose and service. I started my career as a chief data scientist in the U.S. Air Force. As of that, every decision, as you can imagine, was very mission critical and evidence-based. Later on, when I ended up becoming a mom, I started looking much more closely at the products that I was bringing into my home. So think what I was washing my clothes with and cleaning my house with and consuming, and really shocked at how little transparency existed in consumer goods. It was extremely hard to actually find products that I could trust or just truly understand what was in them or what they were made with or how they were made and the impact they would have on my health or my family's health. That experience honestly just made it clear that the same kind of data discipline that I had used in the military and other places in my career could be applied in this situation. And so we started to think about how we could be using data to build trust to drive better purchasing decisions. And that's how Novi started. So we help brands and retailers verify data about product, how a product is made, what it's made with, and then share that verified data with the world so that consumers can confidently discover and purchase those products. And then ultimately, we're just helping brands increase their visibility, discoverability, and sales.
Thank you for sharing that. When you made the decision to go into that market, was it clear that other solutions providers weren't filling that need, or were there particular pain points you were looking to address?
It was very interesting as we started to talk to, at the time, it was retailers in general. A lot of the world is run on product claims. Think about when you're maybe searching for a product, you look for things that are vegan or paraben free, or now we're getting into PFAS or microplastic free or gluten free or safe for sensitive skin. It goes on and on and on. When you think about a retailer looking to endorse those claims or start to market products against those claims, there needs to be trust that that claim is accurate and verifiable. And that infrastructure just didn't exist. When you think about the pain point, too, a lot of that data lives in PDFs or documentation or lab reports or things that are a little bit more proprietary to the brand about their supply chain. And it's completely unstructured and unusable at scale. As these retailers and marketplaces, and honestly now AI shopping platforms are the place where consumers are searching and discovering products and then converting, they want this verified, structured data in order to recommend the best product for their customer, the most relevant or the most accurate product. And this is honestly just because consumers are demanding it. When we thought about the problem we were building to solve, Novi started to become this connective tissue between this messy back end and then the front end experience where consumers are doing their discovery or evaluation of products to make decisions. The one thing I will just say, though, is it's really exciting to see the shift to AI shopping. Think about now you're using ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity to do research. And whether consumers realize it or not, you're asking more detailed, thoughtful, complex questions about what you want to buy. Lots of consumers, you're switching from traditional Google search, which is hey, find me a stain remover for my kids, to find me non-toxic stain remover, proven to remove tough stains, safe for kids, good for sensitive skin, under $20. The questions are just so hyper-personalized that they require hyper-personalized response. And so that's where this data starts to come into play, is powering that and rewarding brands that have that kind of data.
Do you consider Novi to be a platform or a product company?
We're definitely not a product company. We're a data infrastructure platform. And our whole mission and what we're built is to help brands increase their visibility and selection rate. And this is now becoming more and more evident. And as I was mentioning, in the new world of AI shopping, we're making verified product data portable, I guess. And what we talk about is scalable so that it powers every consumer touch point. And so that's where the platform play comes in.
Can you tell us a little bit about the back end of the platform so we can understand the mechanics a bit more deeply?
Think about us as AI-assisted due diligence. Our technology, we're ingesting all of a brand's supporting documentation on their supply chain. So how the product was made, what it was made with. Think about like ingredient lists or certifications or test results. And what we're doing is mapping it against these standardized definitions of products that industry has already come up with. Certifiers, regulators, retailers. We just determine which product data is factually supported. That's what sets us apart. So that's the back end. But actually verifying the data or the claim is, while it's important, it's not enough. The value of that truth is in distributing it accurately, consistently, and at scale to all the channels. And so the channels, because they're influencing purchasing decisions, is where Novi is different. We verify the data, but then we make it basically travel into the ecosystem. And so our platform is not only verifying it, but then pushing it directly into retailer partner systems, marketplaces. We have direct integrations, and now shopping and AI interfaces, you would call it. That's the differentiation around where we sit.
Especially for larger companies, protecting their proprietary data is a top concern when considering AI strategy and implementations. How do you address that?
That's the interesting component of this, where we're not sharing all those details. And I think that's exactly why where we sit in the ecosystem is so compelling. These platforms don't want all those details. It's a lot. Like, what are they going to do that? But they do want the structured, verified information to help surface better products. We sit in that intersection of making sense of all of that information, figuring out what's relevant, what's not, and then pushing it out. Because we do that, we're essentially protecting all that proprietary information on behalf of the brand. We also only ask for what's necessary. We're not digging into everything that they have. That's also a big piece of it.
What types of claims are the hardest to verify using AI or other technology?
The hardest claims are the ones that rely on what we talk about as context or nuance, something that's a little bit more in the gray, like sustainable, ethical, clean.
Natural. Yeah.
Natural, exactly. They mean so many different things to so many people, different retailers. What we've done is we basically deconstruct them into verifiable factual parts. So made in the USA, that's like a black and white, or certified cruelty-free or PFAS-free, gluten-free, whatever they are. We can take the things that are intention that can't be judged and just like put it into evidence. Essentially, we're just taking broad marketing language and breaking it down into the factual, we call it machine readable proof points, but it's just the kind of rigor that in today, honestly, humans, but now algorithms are looking about product data and information.
That's kind of a surprising answer, but I feel like I learned something new there. I'm like, oh, absolutely. That would be harder to do. So let's shift over to go to market. Who was kind of that first customer or customer type use case that really emerged as interested in your platform?
It's really great. So in the early days, what I would say is the brands that were inherently doing better and wanted to figure out how to differentiate over the larger incumbents. There was a lot of brands that were betting on like, hey, the older way of shopping, consumers really trusted large brands. You have a big brand name. Inherently, we're going to trust you. But then as we've started to transition in today's world, a lot of that trust is completely gone and eroded. And even consumers don't trust large brands. What we were working on with was mostly the challenger brands that were trying to stand out and say, hey, I've done something different. I've invested money into making better products and I want to tell the world about it. As we started to work with those brands, we saw there were a lot of retailers and marketplaces and just places where people are doing the shopping. And they were like, yes, there is a consumer out there that we want to attract and talk to. And so let's figure out how we share this information to make them stand out. So that was the early days of how we started to get this going.
I mean, that's where a lot of innovation starts, right? Is with the challenger brands, less risk averse, I should say. So willing to try something new. That makes total sense. You had mentioned retailers as well, Kimberly. So how do retailers fit into the equation?
They're the ones that are consuming the verified product data and leveraging it across their interfaces. You could think about that as everything from when I'm on a retailer's website and I'm searching or filtering. They need a lot of metadata to know what to reference or to put into search results, all the way into on the product description page. Some retailers highlight products with badging or tagging or labels or put it in interesting places so that the consumer can do in-depth research. And then a lot of retailers actually are starting to get into the more conversational AI experiences, the chat bots or places where a consumer can ask questions about products. That's a very, very important place to start to put this information.
Do you interact with consumers directly much?
No, we don't. We are completely behind the scenes infrastructure.
Excellent. Can you share a behind the scenes story of how your tool uncovered maybe a surprising claim or helped a brand turn a challenge into an opportunity?
It's a little bit more recent. What we're leaning into now comes from a larger beauty brand. They were struggling just understanding their visibility in AI shopping. Their team assumed, and this is largely just because of the way we've all been trained with SEO and paid search, that you just need more marketing content to fix it, or new marketing content. And that's important. But when we started to look and analyze their data and their visibility and how they were showing up, the content was actually not the thing that was going to drive the largest lift in the context of making sure their products were being selected. So they were finding like, hey, we're looking in AI and we're just not showing up. What we saw is like they had all this really strong product data. There was some dermatology tested, allergy safe, fragrance free, but none of it was actually structured in a way or being leveraged that models. So think about LLMs, large language models, are deeming verified. And so they were just invisible. And so we ingest all of their documentation. We help them structure it, including the way they could reference these claims so the machines would recognize it, then how to distribute it. So which retailers to put it in, how to update their product content. When we talk about that product details on their product details page, it's interesting because the results are almost immediate. And I think that's what's cool now. So they looked at ChatGPT and Gemini, and their products were selected over 250% more often after we made this. Even more interesting, a key competitor of theirs who had really strong brand recognition also lost visibility as a result of their work. So it's just like a perfect example of how if you really do this well and you have this fact-based product data, you can flip market dynamics and you don't have to outspend competitors. It was just like a story where honestly the future of commerce is headed. The visibility is no longer about scale or ad spend. It's really about credibility and verified data and how to use that to make sure you're being chosen versus being invisible.
I learned something else today.
Yes, the world's changing so quickly. We learn something every day too.
Every day I'm having conversations about AI and its impact on different sectors of how we work, and it's fascinating to be learning about it. So let's go deeper into customer behavior. And from your vantage point, we also know that consumers in the US, especially younger adults, are looking for greater transparency as well as deeper sense of story and some other components. How do you think that that's really been changing, and how are you addressing that change through your platform?
Brand reputation used to be this proxy for quality and trust. And now consumers hands down want proof and they want more information. They want to do the research themselves. And so if they're doing the research themselves, they don't want just marketing fluff. Has this been looked at by somebody? Can you give me proof points? It's actually interesting in our studies with the retailers that we work with, products where they feature a verified claim or they do the work to help the consumer have that education and research ability outperforms incredibly by double digits. It's not just in discovery, it's also in conversion. With one of our retailers, it drives up to 80% more loyalty among the repeat customers. And that's exactly what you want, is you want those customers to ultimately come in, they find something, but then they trust you because they've gotten all the information. So they want to come back. You've become a trustworthy destination for them to continue purchasing. So that's mostly what we've been doing, is how we not only verify the information, but help the retailer leverage it, and then how we help the brand disseminate it everywhere they sell, because that's actually really important, is having consistency of information. It can't just be, oh, I invested in this one channel and then I show up kind of strange over here. That also drives a lack of trust and confusion with consumers too.
Or maybe even having dated information in a channel and
Exactly. Because then you say, oh, wow, well, which thing do I trust? This is conflicting.
as a former brand marketer myself, I can completely understand how that could happen. And the impact of not having the right approach in place could be significant. As a co-founder of your firm, what has been your biggest learning to date?
While brands and a lot of the newer up and coming challenger brands are putting in a ton of hard work to do things, mostly to create really high quality products and to do things differently in their supply chains by selecting better materials, better manufacturing processes. At the end of the day, unless they're going to get money out of it and drive actual real conversion and real discoverability and ROI, they aren't prioritizing necessarily as much talking about it. That sounds very counterintuitive, but it is just one of the biggest learnings that we've had around brands have to survive. They have to make money. They're going to do what it takes to make money and stay alive. If we can help them, we know that consumers are looking for this. And so if we can help them give that information in a way that drives real money, they'll invest in it. That's like one of the bigger learnings that we've had, is giving them the mechanisms, the partnerships with retailers, with marketplaces to really invest in sharing their stories and their data that can educate consumers.
Kind of the fact-based brand story in a way, insight-based. Great. What has surprised you the most?
Honestly, what's happening lately, how fast people have flocked to interfaces like ChatGPT and Gemini and Perplexity to do research on shopping. We hear brands time and time again now that are seeing 25 to 40% of their traffic come through these channels. What's shocking is not only do they present answers to questions with extreme confidence and authority, those answers are largely very inaccurate. There's a lot of inaccuracy. And I think a lot of people talk about how, oh gosh, these answers don't make a lot of sense. But we still, because it's presented with such authority, get, I would say, influenced by that. And so I just think it's shocking that still a lot of people are going back and they're doing their research in that way. And brands are having to adapt by the seat of their pants, honestly, as quickly as possible. And so that's what's been shocking, but also exciting and a huge opportunity.
For my own company, my firm, it has hallucinated a backstory, origin story for the company, which is not true. And the rest of the data was accurate. It is definitely a brave new world in that regard. And so kind of how do we understand how to get to the right data and the most accurate data will be interesting. Well, good. Sounds like your founder's journey has been going well so far. How do you think about the culture of your team?
We are very mission-based. Everybody at the company is here for that reason, is we actually want consumers to have access to better products. And when we say better products, there's not necessarily a definition that we have in mind. It's just more that the products that the consumer is purchasing, they're completely aware of, and they have all the facts and data to make the best decision for them. The culture is, we're a startup. Things are tough. There are ups and downs and lots of curveballs, and you're getting up and you're grinding every day. But when you have that really strong mission component, it makes it easy to get out of bed and continue to solve the problem day in and day out. That's one of the most important parts of the glue that holds us together. One of the core pillars of our culture is low ego, high confidence. There's lots of words that people use, like strong opinions, loosely held, but we're very good at coming into the room with lots of data, lots of facts, feeling willing to debate and being direct. But since everyone has a low ego, we know it's not personal. And so it's all of us just like trying to get to the best solution because we love to solve problems. And that leaves a lot of the emotional baggage and psychological components of what can be challenging in a workplace off the table. You know, if you're coming at me and telling me something, it's not because I'm worried about you coming at me. It's more just like, oh, you're bringing really factual information to the table. Let's consider. We're really big on that.
And you mentioned you were in the military. Have there been any specific skill sets or experiences that you've translated over to your role as a CEO?
One of the ones that I talk about a lot is discipline. You've just learned that inside and out in the military. But when I think about discipline, it's just continuously showing up. And it's hard to do in a startup to be disciplined and to keep showing up and to keep working after a problem. When you do that over time, when you do it in the small things, you'll do it in the big things. And so some of that stuff in the military is like discipline in making your bed every morning. You're like, oh, this is the worst task ever. But if you can get up and consistently make your bed, it's like a discipline that you learn as a human. And so when something hard happens, you have discipline to continue to work through it. And ultimately, what that really means is startups are all about failure. Failure is all about data points that you learn and you adjust so that you can continue and not make the same mistakes. And so that is the discipline component of it is, okay, that failed. I'm going to learn from it. I'm going to apply it. I'm going to adjust, and then I'm going to keep going. And then you just keep working until you find the things that get you past that one problem that you're working on.
AI is evolving fast. What do you see as coming next for Novi Connect in terms of your new features or partnerships or any advances you have in the pipeline?
We've just released AI shopping optimization or an optimizer. We are helping brands now really understand how their individual products, how them as a brand, but how each individual product shows up in AI search against their competitors, then look at what they can do to improve visibility. And so that's what we're really focused on right now with these eyeballs going to ChatGPT and Gemini and Perplexity, all those places. So it's interesting because, like I mentioned, it's pretty incredible to see how brands have optimized their SEO and paid ad strategy on Google, but they don't even rank in AI and they don't have awareness of that. how we help them build a strategy for each individual product, because that's also really important. A lot of this has been build a strategy holistically for your brand, but now it's like, oh no, I have 10 products. Every one of them has to have a very different strategy for it to rank. That's what the product is really focused on, and helping them not only merchandise it, but leverage their data and then disseminate it so that they're showing up.
And for AI search rankings, is it easy to go and find that somewhere, or is that something that's within your system that is a competitive advantage for you?
That's something that's a competitive advantage for us. There's the first component of just understanding if you're discoverable. And there are other products out there that are obviously doing that and are coming online as this is becoming more and more important and popular. That's one piece of it. That's not actually our core competitive advantage. The things that we specialize in are creating playbooks of what to do per product, simulating those playbooks. So actually, before you go and do it, see if I were to do these things, here's how my product would actually increase rankings, and then giving you the execution tools. That's through all the partnerships. And that's where we really lean in. Most brands talk about, but now I have to do it. And that's the hardest part. And so how do we make that seamless for you? We are taking on the burden of transforming your data to be retail ready. We're plugging it into the systems with the retailers, building those integrations, helping you keep it up to date, that kind of stuff.
Do consumers understand that AI is being used for product development at some level? Have you started to see that show up in any of the work you're doing?
I do not know if consumers have any idea that that's happening, and we haven't been close to the product development side of it too much. But I will say that given how quickly AI can help now with, I'm sure, iterations and getting products to market, consumers are constantly looking for that next thing. I am sure that there's going to be an expectation in the future that you can no longer plan for a product that's going to be launched 12 months from now. Things are changing way too rapidly.
So true. So true. How can people find out more about your company and the work you're doing?
You can check us out at noviconnect.com. Follow us on LinkedIn. We're posting stuff regularly. Sign up for our newsletter. That's the best way.
Great. Great. I really enjoyed learning about this space, and thank you for the time, Kimberly.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us today on the latest episode of FoodTech Stories. Be sure and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform, and keep an eye out for our bi-weekly episodes. I'm your host, Megan Thomas, founder of Ladris 17. FoodTech Stories is edited by TJG Media.